Hello, and welcome to the pre-recorded presentation for the Winter Motorized Recreation Management Plan in the South Peace. I thank you for taking the time to join me for this session today. My hopes for this presentation are to provide you the details into the planning process, outline the measures that are being recommended in the draft plan, and informing you of opportunities to get involved through Engage BC and provide your feedback into the draft plan. I acknowledge a lot of information will be provided during this presentation. I hope this format will allow the user to pause, review the information at their preferred pace. Our agenda for today is to provide an overview of the planning process, to provide details of the draft management plan, provide an introduction into the proposed management areas, and outline the ways to get involved in the planning process. To begin, as part of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement, local governments, industry, and stakeholders were invited to a number of working group tables. One such group was the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee. Membership of the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee included representatives from local government, the British Columbia Snowmobile Federation, local riding clubs, and an interest group. Project planning with the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee commenced in January of 2020, and the engagement process of Phase 1 commenced with this group in February of 2020. This engagement process resulted in the identification of valuable riding areas, as well as recommended recovery actions for the South Peace to help support the recovery of caribou. A record of these conversations and the recommendations of this group can be found within the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee recommendations report that was provided to the province of British Columbia in February of 2021. The province of British Columbia would like to extend our greatest gratitude and thanks to the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee for their commitment of over 450 hours of effort that was volunteered and invested into the engagement process. A set of the recommendations report can be found on the British Columbia Snowmobile Federation webpage, as well as there's a link to that report on the Engage BC website. The recommendations from the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee were a cornerstone in discussions with the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement for the development of the first draft of the Winter Motorized Recreation Management Plan in the South Peace. Conversations for the draft plan were focused around meeting the intent of the shared recovery objective while maintaining opportunities for winter motorized recreation in the project area. We've now reached Phase 2 of the engagement process with local governments, First Nations, tenure holders, and citizens of British Columbia to review this draft plan and the recommendations from the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee and provide feedback and comments to influence the drafting of the final plan. This presentation is a part of the materials for this Phase 2 engagement, and additional information can be found at engage.gov.bc.ca/caribou/. Phase 2 engagement will run from May 19th, 2021 until June 30th, 2021 for a total of 6 weeks. At the conclusion of this Phase 2 engagement, a What We Heard report will be developed that will capture the comments and recommendations from this Phase 2 engagement. Using that What We Heard report, the parties of the partnership agreement will amend the draft management plan into a finalized version. This finalized version, in addition to the What We Heard report, the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee's recommendations report, and an Indigenous Governments consultation summary, will inform decisions by BC Parks and the Minister of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development for winter motorized recreation in the South Peace. Implementation of a finalized management plan is anticipated for the fall of 2021 and onwards. Impacts of winter motorized recreation on caribou is well documented within scientific literature. This literature can be found on the Caribou in BC as well as the Engage BC websites. In general, snowmobiles have a negative impact on caribou in both the short and long term, impacting their survivability or reproductive success through displacement, disturbance, and increased predation. British Columbia commits to manage winter motorized recreation in a manner that supports the shared recovery objective, which is the immediately stabilizing and expeditiously growing the population of the central group to levels that are self-sustaining and support traditional Aboriginal harvesting activities consistent with existing Aboriginal and treaty rights. These commitments are outlined within Clause 37 of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement. Namely, BC will collaborate on the design and implementation processes with the parties of the Partnership Agreement. That this work will be done in consultation with First Nations, technical experts, local governments, and the snowmobile sector. And the management of winter motorized recreation could include closures, enhancements, and other measures consistent with similar plans in British Columbia. Commencing the start of the collaborative design process with the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement, the parties agreed to 3 objectives. The primary objective is to manage winter motorized recreation in a manner that supports the achievement of the shared recovery objective. In addition to that, the secondary objectives, where they do not conflict or detract from the primary objective, is to maintain use of the highest value and most unique winter motorized recreation areas and a diverse mix of winter motorized recreation opportunities in the region, as well as support the development or enhancement of winter motorized recreation destinations in areas that likely represent a low risk to caribou recovery in order to support the region's winter motorized recreation visitor economy. With the objectives for the plan developed, the parties discussed types of management actions and how they should be considered in the draft plan. Management actions vary from indirect and education, signage, best practices, to direct regulation, closures, gates, or a blended approach noted here on the diagram as adaptive combination. These management actions need to be applied based on the presence and type of caribou habitat. And for more information on how we considered these approaches, please refer to the draft Winter Motorized Recreation Management Plan in the South piece. Now that we have reviewed the objectives and indirect and direct management actions that have been identified and considered by the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement, I would now like to show you the proposed applications of these measures. Here on this web map, we have the project area outlined in lime green. On the northwest side of it, we have the Williston Reservoir with the Peace Arm right here. And we have Highway 97 running through the Pine Pass right here just on the north side of Pine-Lemoore Park. In this project area, there's 5 caribou herds: the Narroway Caribou Herd, Quintet, Burnt Pine, Kennedy Siding, and the Clinzay-Zaw, formerly known as the Scott and Moberly. This area is of significant importance for caribou recovery. Currently, the province of British Columbia maintains an ongoing predator management program throughout the region. In collaboration with the other partners of the partnership agreement, there's the maintenance and management of a maternity pen in the Clinzay-Zaw. There's a supplemental feeding program in the Kennedy Siding. And a series of industrial moratoriums have already been put in place to restrict commercial resource development within high elevation summer range and high elevation winter range of the central group of southern mountain caribou herds. The inter-moratoriums on resource development just flipped up here in orange and are spread throughout the herd area. In addition to those interim moratoriums, the province of BC is also committed to the implementation of a park expansion for the Clinzazal Park in a large area of the Clinzazal here. Now talking about snowmobiling, the South Peace Snow Advisory Committee outlined the values and interests of 21 identified riding areas that just flipped up in black here on the map. If you want to understand more details about why these were identified as high value, please refer to the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee report, which can be found on the BC Snowmobile Federation website, or a link to it on the Engage BC website. Currently, the vast majority of the riding area or project area is open to winter motorized recreation. The only existing closures in the area are at 1,500 elevations above 1,524 meters on the Bull Moose Chamberlain Mountain, just to the west of Tumbler Ridge. In addition to that, areas of the Monkman Park, Wapiti Park, and northern sections of Kakwa Park are also closed to snowmobiling, as well as Bocock Peak and Clinzazal are also closed. The Pine Lamore Park here along Highway 97 is open to snowmobiling. Now diving into the details of the recommended actions in the management plan, I just brought up enhancement areas indicated here in blue. These areas were either identified by the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee or the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement as areas for enhancement of recreation opportunities. Enhancements may include things like improved access, establishment and development of warming cabins, enhanced wayfinding signage, and others. We look forward to receiving feedback on potential enhancement projects during this engagement process. I also encourage you to review the South Peace Snowmobile Advisory Committee's recommendations report for a large list of recommended enhancement projects. Now bringing up partial season closures. Throughout the Central Group, the only herd of caribou that has identified movement patterns throughout the winter months is the Kennedy siding. Because of this part-time occupation of areas, a seasonal closure is appropriate. The parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement are proposing a seasonal closure starting on January 15th each year in areas of the Upper Burnt and Southern Hassler, here in orange. These measures will provide for continued snowmobiling opportunities in the early winter while mitigating the impacts to caribou when they are most likely to be using this habitat. Now flipping up active management areas and just cleaning up the map a little bit. Recognizing the importance of a number of riding areas that overlap with currently occupied caribou habitat, the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement proposed the implementation of a number of active management areas in the Halsworth Meadows, Windfall Lakes, and Silver Sands areas. In these locations, permanent riding can occur when caribou are absent. The details of these permit conditions still need to be worked out in partnership with the local snowmobile organizations or local governments to ensure that the recovery of caribou in these locations can still occur, while providing recreation opportunities when caribou aren't in these locations. Moving forward with full season closures within identified riding areas. Unfortunately, there's significant overlaps between these identified snowmobile areas and preferred caribou habitat throughout the entire region. The parties of the partnership agreement are proposing that these areas would be closed within these known riding areas to support the achievement of the shared recovery objective. These closures would be in place from November 1st to May 14th to winter motorized vehicles. These proposed closures make up 30% of the identified snowmobiling areas within the region. In areas outside of the identified snowmobiling areas, the parties of the Intergovernmental Partnership Agreement are also proposing the closure of additional locations to ensure we can meet the goals of the shared recovery objectives. The scale of these proposed management actions is similar to other herds in the province, for example, the Heart Ranges or Columbia North. We recognize that these proposed management actions have a significant impact on winter motorized recreation values and visitor use economies of the region. We look forward to receiving feedback and comments from you that will become the content of both the What We Heard report, as well as inform the finalization of the draft management plan and eventually inform decisions by the Minister of Forest Lands, Natural Resource Operations and Rural Development, or BC Parks. We encourage you to visit engage.gov.bc.ca/caribou/ to find the draft plan, spatial files, maps, and a frequently asked questions section. In addition, folks can pick up hard copies of these documents outside of Front Counter BC offices in Fort St. John, Dawson Creek, and Mackenzie. Once folks are informed about the contents of the plan and have comments and feedback to share, we encourage you to fill out the online survey or web map at engage.gov.bc.ca/caribou/. Either submit an email submission to caribou.recovery@gov.bc.ca or mail in a written response to the Caribou Recovery Program at the address above. This engagement process is open until June 30th, 2021, and we look forward to hearing from local governments, First Nations, tenure holders, stakeholders, and the citizens of British Columbia. Thank you for your time today.